Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 744 of the Juicebox Podcast. On today's episode, we'll be speaking with Stephen, who is an adult living with type 1 diabetes, and Stephen made a major adjustment in his life, and he's going to tell us about it today. While you're listening to Stephen tell me about the thing in his life that I then recorded and gave to you, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. U.S. resident who has type 1 diabetes or is the caregiver of someone with type 1, is that you? Are you one of those people? If you are, please go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Join the registry, take the survey, complete the survey, help people living with type 1 diabetes, help yourselves, and help the podcast. It's that easy. Takes fewer than 10 minutes. Super simple, easy survey to do. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Thank you for considering it. And now I take you into the podcast to speak with Stephen. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. The episode is also sponsored by InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. Please go to InPenToday.com to learn about the insulin pen that does much more than you might think.
Hi, I'm Stephen. I've been diabetic since 14. I'm now 34.
20 years.
And, yeah.
Stephen.
What?
I mean, I banged it right out like it was nothing. You didn't even act excited for me. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry, dude. Yay, Scott!
20 years. See, you know what I just did there? I talked myself right out of listening. Just do it again. Sorry.
Just do the intro?
No. Just tell me how old you are again.
I'm 34.
34.
And I was diagnosed at 14.
Okay.
The easy math.
It was really super easy. I'm going to be honest. What, looking back now, anybody in your family have type 1 or other autoimmune diseases?
Yes. Some grandparents have had diabetes, either in type 1 or type 2. My mom has type 2, and my sister has thyroid problems.
Okay. Do you happen to know if her thyroid is do they call it hypothyroid or do they call it Hashimoto's?
It's neither of those.
She has Graves'?
I don't know how to explain it. It's something else.
Oh, okay. All right. Don't worry about it then.
She just has tons of thyroid problems.
There's a lot of thyroid problems. Okay. Nothing simple to put into a box. All right.
Right.
What do you remember about being diagnosed?
So that I used to be really big into paintball, and we were going with our church group to a paintball event, and everybody knew I was the guy that played paintball. So I was really tired and lethargic that day. I was drinking a whole bunch of water, couldn't figure out peeing a lot. In the middle of one of the games, I just couldn't stand it, and I shot myself in the foot to get out. I was like, I've got to get off the field. So I shot myself. I was like, hey, ref, I got hit. We left the field, and my parents were like, oh, there's something wrong. We need to take care of him. We didn't know what was going on. It had been going on for days. But my sister picked me up from paintball, and we went to her work. She worked at Chuck E. Cheese at the time, and I got a Coke because I needed a drink. So I'm sucking down a Coke and, still not feeling good. Went home and took a nap and just peed all night.
Did they end up taking you to the hospital, or how did it go?
Yeah, so that's that night, Grandpa was in town, and he was like, "Why is that kid going to the bathroom so much?" And so my dad went to 24-hour Walmart and got some ketone test strips because Mom was diabetic but didn't take care of herself. So he had me pee on a ketone strip, and I didn't know what it was. And he was like, "Yeah, we got to take you to the doctor tomorrow." No clue. Still not telling me what's going on. we went to the doctor and they said, yeah, he needs to go to the children's hospital. So, okay, we pack up and we go get gas. And again, they're not telling me what's going on.
Right.
So we stop at the gas station and I get a Coke and a candy bar. Nobody's telling me that anything. We get to children's hospital and they finally get my blood sugar and tell me kind of what's going on. My blood sugar was at like 749.
Wow. How long did you remember what your A1C was?
No, that's before I knew, or they probably told my mom, but
yeah. I was just wondering how long did you think it was going on, like, severely?
It had at least been weeks, because I knew I came home from school one day. The nurse thought I was sick and I couldn't like stand up straight. I was acting kind of the drunk. And my sister just kind of told me, hey, go to bed, you'll be okay. But I like physically couldn't. So I was like pacing around the house and I got a Coke because that's what we had in the house at the time. I drank a Coke and felt fine. And looking back, I could see all these signs, like put it together.
Wow.
But then it was just like, oh, I just needed to drink. And then I was fine.
So the thirst was the driving force the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right. I have to ask you, soda a big part of your life now, or are we done with it? How does that work?
I am drinking a Diet Mountain Dew as we speak. But I do a lot more water right now and green tea.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. It was just a staple in your house, huh? Coca-Cola just around?
It just, Coke was there. I mean, Mom had Diet Coke, but it didn't taste the same at the time. So
20-year-old Diet Coke. I don't even remember it anymore.
Right.
I do remember it coming out and people trying it and being like it was fire on their tongue. But some people I knew who were older or had diabetes would drink it. It's such an interesting thing. We think about soda so much differently now than even 20 years ago. So what's it like? I mean, you're 14, like you're right in the middle of puberty and everything else. What did they give you to manage with? Did you get needles, or were you doing, how far ago was that? 20 years? I got
needles and a test strip, and in the hospital, they IV'd me and brought my hydration levels back to normal. And then they kind of told me I got carb counting, and then they sent me on my way.
That's it. How long do you think you were in the hospital?
4 or 5 days.
Okay. And then
it was not long.
Transition to home. Do your parents help you, or do they just leave it to you?
For a while, they helped me, but it's more like nagging. Hey, test your blood sugar. Hey, take a shot. Did you take your shot this morning? I love my parents, but they were not really into the diabetes early. And that'll probably come out later in my story, because I was uncontrolled for years. Okay. But it probably started there. It was like, hey, take your shot so you don't die. Test your blood sugar so you don't die. But those things didn't sink in. The so you don't die didn't sink in until probably last year.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So the extent of and again, I don't mean to come down on your parents either, but the extent of the direction from them is, they told us at the hospital that if you don't do this, you're going to die. So just do it. But you weren't.
So Mom's type 2.
Yeah.
So it was test your blood sugar and take your metformin or whatever she had at the time. But taking a shot for me and like counting carbs and finding the ratio, and it just wasn't a thing. Tracking numbers. It was like, oh, it's a good number, I can eat. Or, oh, it's a bad number, I should take a shot and then eat.
And that was it. It's that simple. Yeah. I don't think the technology existed, and the understanding definitely didn't exist. I mean, it doesn't sound like it. I mean, your mom didn't understand her type 2,
right?
You know, and to be perfectly honest, 20 years later, I don't know how many people understand their type 2 still. You know, it's becoming more and more understood, but I talk to people and they just don't seem to have the first idea about their diabetes. I think type 1, you know, they can fall into one or two categories where they get it because it's so immediate that they have to get it, or they'll maybe do what a lot of people do, which is just keep their blood sugar high, but not so high that it's not going to cause them like a significant issue in the moment. And then just sort of try to, you know, hope that tomorrow never comes, I guess.
Yeah, that second way is how I live. or lived up until, like, honestly, I found your podcast and realized I had to get my life under control or I was going to die.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found it. That's great. What kind of A1Cs did you have over the last 19 years?
Didn't check very much.
So not going to the doctor regularly?
Not going to the doctor. Got an endocrinologist, and the guy was fantastic, but he was like, you got to get this under control. Diet and exercise. Have a good day. And 6 months later, well, you're diet and exercise. You're not taking care of this. Get it? Okay. So we finally does introduce me to Dexcom my first year of college. And this is like the Dexcom 2 or whatever, the thing where you manually inserted it, and then it came with its own little thing that looked like a teardrop that beeped at you all the time.
Was that the 4? How did they? Arden had it, and I don't remember what the designation 7 plus. I don't remember the numbering system started out oddly.
Yeah, it was way early though. This thing was big and clunky and loud and unwieldy during class. when it wanted to go off, it went off.
It was the one where you push down the plunger.
Yes, you had to remove the safety and manually push down the plunger.
Yep. Then
pinch it and peel it off.
That's the G4, and then the receiver was like an egg shape almost.
Yes.
Arden had this. Yeah, I remember staring at that thing for a long time. Dexcom's current available. Yeah. Oh no, wait, 7 plus, the new Gen 4 sensor. I have my timeline wrong. I think it was 7 plus, then G4. I'm gonna have to check into that. But a long time ago, you had one of the very first ones.
Yeah, it was still experimental. Like it was expensive, and they were like, this is gonna change your life, but they didn't like explain how to use it. So it was like, oh, you'll get your numbers. They're like, oh, great, I don't have to test anymore. But then you had to calibrate it like 4 times a day. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the G4 now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, right. It was a long time ago.
Long time. 2006.
2006. And that was college age for you?
Yes.
2006 was college. Wow, how am I? Boy, the years get past me, Stephen. Like when you said that was college, I was like, that's not possible. He was diagnosed when he was 14. College would have been 4 years later. And then I couldn't. Oh boy. All right. Don't get old, everybody. So you have that, but going back that far, it was better than anything that ever existed. I'll say that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And I remember back then being more focused on just like, the arrows are the important part. Like, don't worry too much about the number. Test if you want the number, but the arrows are super important. Like it'll tell you if you're falling or rising. I remember using it like that.
See, you have the wisdom beyond your years. I, as the diabetic, was like, oh, my number is good.
Okay,
I can eat.
So so if you had an 85 blood sugar and it was 2 arrows up, you'd be like, it's time for lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
The arrow didn't matter to me. I didn't understand, rising, falling, milligrams per second, whatever that calibration is.
Yeah.
Like, if I would have understood that, I could have written a book back then and made a lot of money. But
it would have been ahead of the curve, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, okay. So, all right. So you have that, and you're in college. So what is college like?
Horrible. That's all I had. That's when I kind of switched to buying insulin at Walmart, and because it was cheaper, I stopped going to the endocrinologist. I got this Dexcom, and every couple of months I'd have to call and get a refill prescription, but that was the extent. I'd wear it, and then eventually, after like a year, I got tired of wearing it because I'm a college student and I have to carry this thing around, and
you don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it, so I stopped doing it.
So you went back to like the Walmart insulin. So were you using a fast acting insulin, and then you went and used that OG Walmart stuff?
Yeah, like I had the prescription for the name brand, the slow acting and the long acting that you mix in the morning, and then you take the fast acting with your meals. But I'm a college student. Mom gives me money for for my medicine. And so, look, I've got all this money. I might as well find a cheaper medicine. And again, I don't understand my diabetes.
Yeah. So
it's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had a basal insulin, a slow acting basal insulin. You had a fast acting mealtime insulin. But for clarity, for everyone listening, Walmart now sells basically it's Novolog rebranded. So you can get Novolog at Walmart now, but that's only in the last couple of months that's existed. Prior to that, what were you getting? Like, was it called Novolin? What was it called?
Yeah. Rely on Novolin.
And that's more like, it's an older insulin. It's like regular and NPH kind of lifestyle.
Yes. It's exactly like it has to be kept cold. It has to be kept like within its dates.
And this was not directed to you by a physician. This was directed to you by your, like, if I buy cheaper insulin, I'll have more cash left.
Yes.
And it didn't matter to you
I can even buy more and it can last longer.
Mm. And then, then mom sends more money and you don't even need to spend it on insulin the next time.
Right.
Look at you. Almost a genius, Stephen. so close to having it figured out. But you don't have any like direction from a doctor about switching back and forth between those insulins because they're completely different managements.
No,
right?
No.
You just did it.
I just did it myself. My own college smartest person in the world self was like, I can just switch to this other thing without asking and it'll be fine.
And you don't even know how it went because you weren't measuring A1C. So what were your average blood sugars like your best guess?
Stayed, the low end was probably 230s, 240s, and then ventured up. When I finally started going back, I'll jump ahead and then we'll come back.
Sure.
And I got married and started going to the doctor again. My A1Cs were 14, 13, and then 12.
Wow.
So it was probably up there for the second year of college all the way until my third year of marriage. So probably good 5 years.
Wow. And so when you think of when I think of Arden's graph, when I think of like the low end, I think of 70. And when I think of the real high end, I think of 180. But, mostly I think of 140 or 160. And when you were thinking about that, it was 230, 240 as your low end. And then as high as it would go to your high end.
Yeah. Like it would go off the chart and I wouldn't even care. Be like, oh, it'll come back down later. Or I'll go play water polo. I'll go play disc golf. It'll come down at some point. I'll take some insulin.
And day after day after day. There was never one time where you're just like, today I'm going to get on top. Did you have concept that your blood sugar should be lower?
No.
No, not really.
It was kind of keep it on the Palm Pilot. Keep it within reading. If I took my blood sugar and it said high, my meter said high to me, I was like, oh, I should probably take a shot.
Wow. And you only started paying a little bit of attention because you got married? Did somebody like ask you to take better care of yourself, or how did that even happen?
I kind of just knew something was off, and I'd been out of jobs with insurance, so kind of just got out of it. And so as soon as I got a job that I had insurance, I was like, okay, I should get an endocrinologist and go talk to them and see and maybe get some guidance here.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know what's going on, but maybe I should start talking to somebody.
Did you finish?
And so we're in Memphis, Tennessee, and I just one day just make an endocrinologist appointment. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Right. Was that hard? Was it hard to walk in there and be like, listen, I've been doing this wrong for a really long time. Don't judge me. Just, I need to start over? Or
yes.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's very hard to walk in. The doctors are very judgy.
Was it to the point where it was embarrassing? You just had to overcome it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I knew none of the technology. Like I had told her I'd been on a Dexcom at one point, and she's like, how long ago? And I told her same thing I told you. It was like, I don't know. It had a plunger. She was like, holy cow. It's changed since then.
Right. And this is only just recently that you went and did this.
That's about
2011, 12. Am I getting my days right?
18.
Okay.
2018.
2018.
Because my daughter was born later that year.
But you at that point had not heard the podcast. You just were like, I got to do something.
I'm still flying blind.
Gotcha. Okay. Going just to back for a second. Did you finish college?
I did.
What did you get a degree in?
I have my degree in marketing and business management.
Did you have trouble at school because of your blood sugar being high, or was your body used to it at that point?
It was so used to it.
Yeah.
Like once I finally got my stuff in shape, I'm now gaining a lot of weight back that I had lost because my body was extremely toxic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, if your blood sugar was that high, you must have been thin, actually, I would imagine.
I was.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous of how I look then. It's kind of a body image thing right now. But
well, listen, I'll say this. I know a lot of people think that insulin makes you gain weight, but calories make you gain weight. So, you can take your insulin in a healthy way and not gain weight. It's just, it's a matter of like food choices, I think. I just think I just put up an episode about disordered eating, so it's in my head right now. It's such a weird thing to talk about. It's hard to understand how a person who has a disordered eating, like how their mind even thinks about their body image and food. And it's a weird world that I don't think a lot of people understand. And I'm still just, every time I have a conversation with somebody, just wrapping my head around it a little farther and a little farther. Anyway, so Stephen, we have to get to it. It's about time, right? Like, how do you get locked up? What happened?
Okay. So yeah, that's actually it. With this insurance, I got on an insulin pump. I got on the Medtronic 770 or whatever was new at the time, and was going along life just fine. And I got caught in something with a regional manager of a company I was working for. Told me it was okay to do something. So he and I were doing it, being the best salesman in the region. And then corporate calls, and they're like, this is theft. This is embezzlement. So we get called in, and my boss pins everything on me because we'd been using my code. So I get the full blunt of it, and they throw me in jail for, it's not long, but it's long enough to really have an effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
I got thrown in jail for about a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Okay. So do you think they were trying to make a point to you, or do you think that was just the extent of the punishment for what you did?
Oh, they were trying to make a point and an example, because I'd already agreed to pay back the part that was my fault. I'd already flipped on my boss and told them his part, and like I had made deals, so we had it all in paperwork. I don't know why they wanted me arrested, but they called in the police and had me arrested, and that gives you kids, that gives you years and years and years of trouble. It's not just like when you get out, you're done. There's years of cleanup afterwards. It's not worth it.
It sticks to you now, and like when you apply for jobs, like people know about it, that kind of stuff.
I kind of tell people now, just as a clarifier, but I have had everything wiped because it wasn't all my fault, and I did my community service and my time. But jail's not fun, and for diabetics, it's just not, because they put me in cuffs and take me downtown, and I've got my insulin pump on me. I've probably got a day's worth of insulin left in it. Go through holding and intake, and I've still got my pump on me. They finally get me to like take me upstairs, and they're like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, it's my insulin pump. Like, you can't have that." Like, well, I got all the way through medical and all the way through intake. Like, they're like, "Well, we got to take it." Like, but it keeps me alive. Again, I don't have a lot of knowledge about this. I know it gives me insulin. I take my blood sugar and I tell it how much, and it gives me insulin.
Right. But you're not.
I'm really dumb.
You're not. Well, Steven, I don't think you're dumb, but you don't have like a lot of, like, you really don't, like, for having diabetes for as long as you did. Like, did you know if they take that pump off you, you're not going to have insulin, and you actually would go into DKA? Were you aware of that?
That is what I thought. I knew at this point, if I went too high, I peed a lot, I drank a lot, and I didn't feel good. I usually ended up throwing up and sleeping for a long time. Like I knew those things, but I hadn't made the correlation yet.
Right. Wow.
That those two. So they take my pump, and I was like, well, how am I going to get insulin? But it's like 3 a.m, so they don't want to answer any questions. So I go up, go to sleep. Breakfast comes the next morning, and I'm like, well, I can't eat. If I eat, it's going to drive my blood sugar up. But if I don't eat, my blood sugar is going to go down. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, listen, without insulin, your blood sugar was never going down. I would imagine that when you woke up that next morning, your blood sugar was probably 500-600 without basal for all those hours. Plus, you were probably under a ton of stress.
I'll never know what it was then, but I'll know. Well, eventually, I decided I was going to eat some of the toast because that's all that was edible. And about 2 hours after the meal, they call me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm getting out of here." And they're like, "No, we're going to test your blood sugar and give you a shot." I was like, "Okay."
How long had it been since they took the pump off you at that point?
3 a.m. to, let's call it 9 a.m. Breakfast is at 8.
Okay.
No, 9:30. And so my blood sugar's at 635.
Yeah. Ooh, my guess was right on. I'm so proud.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of myself, Stephen. I don't know why.
That's after a piece of toast. So
yeah. Oh, it's true. I didn't know about the toast when I guessed. All right. So, fair's fair. I was high.
And then they're like, well, it's a sliding scale. We're just going to give you this much insulin. I was like, well, how do you know? I knew a little enough that my body, I'm a bigger guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little type 2, like my mom, a little insulin resistant. I was like, how do you know that's going to be enough? They're like, well, this is just what we do. It's a sliding scale. There's no special treatments.
No, just this is what we do. Well,
this is what we do.
You're thrilled at that point. So then you're there for how long? In how long are you in jail?
That's a week. That's a week and a half of my life.
10 days, about 10 days.
Constantly. It's wake up, breakfast, 2 hours later, insulin. There's a gym time, then back for lunchtime, 2 hours, insulin. Some free time, 2 hours insulin.
How old are you at that point, Stephen?
This is just a short time at 18. My daughter's 3. I'm 30, 31.
About 31. So 24, 16. You've had diabetes for like 17 years at that point, and you functionally don't really understand it still.
Yeah, I still don't understand the ramifications.
At that point, any of your decisions, how they could impact your health or your life, you're without like knowledge of still. And you've been to doctors and endocrinologists and lived your life. Never looked online?
No, not something I was super interested in. I'm going to say it was like a constant state of denial for 17 years. I don't know.
No, I mean, I've heard other people say similar things, so I'm not surprised by that at all. So every day, 10 days, sliding scale, if you would have stayed there for 20 days, 30 days, 10 years, this is how they would have managed you.
Yeah. No, this is where some of the stories from my friends who actually work in other jails, they said there are some inmates that they're allowed to bring their own insulin. Their parents or their family can bring their insulin, and they can be given doctor's orders. And if you're isolated in the medical wing, you can have your pump, but they watch you're in isolation because they've had people try to fully dump their pump into their system
to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all these stories, and they're like, well, they don't train us. They just tell you if the blood sugar is this number, you give this much insulin.
So, yeah. So basically what you're telling me is that going to jail is almost a forfeiture, where'd that word go? Forfeiture?
Forfeiture.
I got it right. Forfeiture. I had it right, Stephen.
You got it.
I said it right, and I tricked myself. It's just a release of your medical care.
Yeah.
Like you're just saying
you're putting all your care into what would be the equivalent of a middle school nurse. And I'm not knocking them, but they don't know the complexities of, my ratio is, don't freak out. Mine's 1-4 right now.
Yeah.
But the guy next to me might be, 1-18.
Mm. Yeah. Did you say don't freak out because yours is 1-4?
Yeah.
No, Arden's is Arden's is 1 to 4.5.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought I was super.
No, we just manage it probably differently. Like Arden's basal is pretty stable at one number. Her basal is like 1 unit, 1.1, 0.9 in that range. And then we do a lot of the management side with the meal insulin.
I'm at 1.33 right now, and carb ratio at 1.1 to 5.
1 to 5. 1.3, 1 to 5. That doesn't sound crazy.
That's not. I thought it was worse than that.
No. I don't even understand the concept of worse. You have a feeling in your head that the more insulin you use, the worse you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's right, Stephen. I think you use the amount of insulin you need. That would be I'd try to let go of that thought if I was you.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's just not, I hear that so much from adults about, I'm doing something wrong. I'm using too much insulin or, that kind of stuff. And you got to meet the need. Your body has a need for insulin. You're meeting it. That's it. I mean, I don't know your diet. I'm sure there's things that everybody could, eliminate from their day-to-day eating that would make it easier. But,
if the diet is a person, I am probably the devil. I'm a manager at a pizza restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
So
a lot of pizza.
I eat a lot of pizza.
Do they have cheesesteaks there? Could you have that without the roll, maybe?
They don't.
Wow. You poor people who don't live in the Northeast. The pizza place, listen, if you move here, your pizza place is going to have cheesesteaks, spaghetti meatballs, pizza, different pastas, salad, garlic knots, chicken parm, that kind of stuff. You guys got to, I don't want to overrun the place, but the rest of you don't know what pizza is. It's not your fault. But, I mean, a couple of states do, but for the most part, you guys are just, you're living like monsters with your pizza. So, we don't want you to eat too much pizza. But how do we get around that? Could I get you to snack on the cheese and the sausage, maybe?
Oh, I do. The pepperoni and the salads. I'll take some of our fajita chicken, heat it up, and put it on a romaine.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
So yeah. I do eat salads. It's just not as prevalent.
But it's also, I'm guessing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's a financial thing. You work there, you're getting the pizza cheaper or for free, and it's a value to eat it, like financially, yes. I would imagine, right?
And I can bring it home. If I don't eat my whole large pizza, I'm a manager, I can bring it home.
And then it's money saved.
Right.
Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. Well, Stephen, we gotta do something about that too. But let's find out. Well, I do want to ask first. Are you managing a pizza place now because the legal troubles kind of led you in that direction? Because it sounds like before you were doing sales or something.
Yeah. I was doing sales and firearms, and I was actually very good at it. But you can't sell guns with a felony. So, yes, kind of the job at the pizza place started as I had this felony on my back. And then while I was getting it expunged, I kind of just moved up and knew the business. I've got a business management degree. I was like, well, might as well use it.
You're good at running the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm good. It's an easy business. I've got a couple side things I do. I own another business doing laser engraving on firearms and knives and stuff, but it hasn't taken off. So I just kind of stayed at the pizza place, and it's a wonderful place. It's just not what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah. Hey, strong possibility for your title. You can't sell firearms with a felony, because that's just, I'll tell you what, Stephen, you're in the wrong secondary business. You should be making t-shirts that say that, because that's at least funny. I'll
approve that.
It's an obvious thing. So, okay. So you're rolling along. You've had a lot happen to you. I mean, if I'm looking at you from the outside in, you got zero chance when you're diagnosed. I mean, if your mom's not managing her own type 2 or understanding it, and then nobody takes any time to figure out the type 1, you're not getting that kind of information from doctors either. They're telling you things like diet and exercise, see you in 6 months. Like, thanks. It's great.
Yeah.
You don't have a functional understanding of diabetes, right? Or how insulin works, or even what your goals should be.
Right.
It's a deep hole you're dug into, a deep hole. and to be expected to get out of it on your own. I'll tell you right now, if I was your attorney, I would have argued your blood sugar was so high that you weren't in your right mind, and I probably would have got you out of jail on that one. Because you're altered and you don't even know it. Your brain is not at its best when your blood sugar is high like that for such a long time. I'm wondering, when you find the podcast, is that about a year ago now?
Yeah. So a lady at church had her daughter diagnosed with diabetes. And so we just kind of connected. And she was like, well, you got to listen to this podcast. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll look into it. And I, roll my eyes quietly. And then the next day I'm like, well, Juicebox, I'll look it up. And I started listening. And it was the first episode you did with Arden where she was there. And I was like, okay, this is kind of entertaining. And I started going backwards.
Wait, you heard Meet Arden first?
Yes.
Oh, you haven't been listening for that long at all. That might have only been like 6 months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I probably have it in my app, the first one I listened to.
I can look it too.
But then I went from there and just went back to the beginning. I mean, I went and started looking for your blog and I was like, this guy, he's telling me things I didn't know. He's telling me things I'm not sure the doctors know.
Wow. Stephen, I got it. So first, let me tell you that Arden's episode called Meet Arden is episode 517. It went up on August 2nd. That's maybe 6 months ago.
Wow.
Not long at all. So did Arden save you? Like, did her just like, if I told her that, she'd be like, oh, tell the guy to leave me alone. But
I mean, you could tell her that it was the entertainment, and then there was enough value in it that it made me go backwards.
No
and
kidding.
Just a few episodes in, I joined the Facebook group, and then after that, started asking questions and seeing people's numbers, and I was like, I got to get back on the Dexcom. And
good for you, man. You got a Dexcom G6 now?
Yes.
Good for you. Oh, that's excellent. Are you pumping or are you still shooting?
I'm pumping T-Slim.
Are you using Control IQ?
I wanted do what?
Are you using Control IQ?
I am.
Oh, good for you. Seriously, is your A1C in the sixes now, or where are you at?
Ooh, you're close.
Am I?
It's 7.4.
Man,
3 weeks ago.
Congratulations. That's
and
wonderful.
It was 7.1 6 months before that, and it only went up because of the holidays. And
Stephen, can I tell you something very unexpected?
Go for it.
I feel like I'm going to cry.
I told myself if I made it through this without crying, it was going to be a thing. Because now, if we jump back to that right before then, that episode is when I almost died.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I didn't mean to skip that. Go ahead.
So before I found your podcast, like right before, we're living where we're living now, and I have to go to work early in the morning. I wake up and I feel weird, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not out of norm. I think it's just early morning. I go into my daughter's room and I start telling her, hey, have a good day. I'm going to go to work. Be good for mommy. And this is all secondhand afterwards, kind of. I don't really know what I'm saying. My wife is telling me this story later. She said, you weren't saying those things. You were blabbering and incoherent, and you weren't saying words. And Alyssa, my daughter, was yelling for mom. She's like, what is daddy saying? He's going crazy. Got out, apparently I muttered the word work, and I tried to stand up, and my wife pushes me down. She's like, no, you're not going anywhere. And calls my mom. And my parents are now really involved now, by the way. But
okay.
Calls my mom, and she's like, what do I do? And she's like, test his blood sugar. And she finds a test kit somewhere in the house, and I'm trying to leave for work. She pushes me down again and gets my blood sugar. I'm at 21.
Oh gosh.
And she gets some honey under my tongue, and I was like, no, I got to go to work. And she's like, you don't know what's going on. You got to sit down.
Right. Where the
We
hell's
go
that
back
pizza
and
then, Steven? You know?
yeah. So what happened was I got up in the middle of the night because I was feeling weird. I tested my blood sugar, and when I look at the history, it was 35. And without even thinking, I went, oh, I'll be fine. And I fell back asleep.
Wow. Yeah, you weren't fine already.
Yeah.
And you slept all night at a blood sugar like that low.
Well, I think it was like 4 a.m. when I woke up at 35. And then I had to be to work. I had to leave for work around 6:30. So is 2 hours later.
Is this on the Control IQ?
No. This is like literally right before I get the Dexcom and the pump.
Okay.
This was the final straw that it was like, I'm hypoglycemic unaware and I need something to wake me up.
Wow.
I'm like shaking now.
Wow. That's gosh, you're lucky. When you have diabetes and use insulin, low blood sugar can happen when you don't expect it. Gvoke HypoPen is a ready-to-use glucagon option that can treat very low blood sugar in adults and kids with diabetes ages 2 and above. Find out more. Go to gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used in patients with pheochromocytoma or insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. InPen is an insulin pen that offers some of the functionality that you've come to expect from an insulin pump. I know you're thinking, oh, Scott, please tell me more. Well, I will. Yes, the InPen is a pen, but it also has an application that lives on your smart device. This app shows you your current glucose levels, meal history, dose history, an activity log, glucose history, active insulin remaining, a dosing calculator, and reports that you and your physician can use while you're trying to decide what your next step is. Well. It's not just an insulin pen. Now is it? InPenToday.com. That's where you're going to find out more information and get started. If you're ready to try the InPen, just fill out the form at InPenToday.com or do some more reading. There's actually some videos you can check out too about the dosing calculator, the dose reminders, carb counting support, and the digital logbook. So if you want to lighten your diabetes management load, but you're not ready for an insulin pump, InPen is probably right for you. InPenToday.com. InPen also offers 24-hour technical support, hands-on product training, and online educational resources. And here's something else that you'll find at InPenToday.com that is actually very exciting. Now, this offer is for people with commercial insurance, and terms and conditions do apply, but you may pay as little as $35 for the InPen. And that's because Medtronic Diabetes does not want cost to be a roadblock to you getting the therapy you need with InPen. $35. How crazy is that? InPenToday.com. InPen requires a prescription and settings from your healthcare provider. You must use proper settings and follow the instructions as directed, or you could experience high or low glucose levels. For more safety information or to get started today, you can go to InPenToday.com.
I was on my way to death's door.
Yeah, you didn't have a seizure though.
No. Well, not that I could recognize. It's probably the closest thing I've understood. Because most of my experience had been high. It was pee a lot, drink a lot, throw up, take a warm shower, drink a lot of water, and take a nap.
Steven,
and I'd be fine.
Your life has changed completely in the last 6 months, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
If I even got you on here a year ago and I said, tell me about your diabetes, you wouldn't even know to tell the stories that you've told.
No,
you would just be like, can you put into words what you would have said a year ago about diabetes? Like before you knew all this and knew to pay attention to what you're paying attention to now. If I said to you, oh, you have diabetes, what's that like? What would you have said?
I sometimes test my blood sugar. I take a daily shot every morning, and I eat what I want, and I try to count and shoot for it.
That's it. That's the whole
That's
thing.
it.
No shit. Wow.
And looking back, it's the worst thing in the world. And I would really rather my episode be a cautionary tale.
Oh, I think it is, Stephen. Don't worry.
For education.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I think you're covering all the bases on that one. I think people are right now like, I need to understand how insulin works, and I definitely don't want to do whatever got Stephen thrown in jail. So, which, by the way, I know you probably can't talk about, but you've teased around it enough. It's fascinating that it's about guns and sales. I think you're lucky you're not. So
we were giving unapproved discounts for guns, which turns into embezzlement. And because it was firearms having to deal with the ATF, it turns into a felony, even for as low as $10. So the amount is unimportant. It was embezzlement of a federally controlled firearm, so it was a felony.
Wow. So if you said, I know nothing about guns, Stephen. You know, I've never shot a gun.
You should come down to the South States. I'll let you shoot some.
Well, let's make sure your blood sugar's nice and stable, and then I'll come. So, what
114 right now.
All right, perfect. There we go. I'm in. Yeah, I live in New Jersey, so it's even hard to find like a range to even if you wanted to just learn how to shoot a firearm, like it's hard to do around here. I think getting a license in New Jersey is next to impossible.
It's one of the harder ones. Illinois, New York, California, New Jersey. Yep. They're all the top.
They're the ones
offenders.
That are the difficult. Yeah. So because I've said in the past to my wife, I was like, what would it hurt if we went to a range and learned how to shoot a handgun? Right. It might be like a nice experience, like fun, and then we looked into it. And I was like, I can't find anywhere to even do this. So we just kind of let it go. It's strange because I have a lot of friends who are cops. So, I think I am the only one, but
usually you can go to a cop's range. You should ask them. We can talk later if you want to.
That's interesting. So, okay. So yeah. So back to the part where you're a cautionary tale. You definitely are. Don't worry. You're doing your part today for everybody. But I'm just like, I'm fascinated that you're like a new diabetic, really.
Yeah.
Right now. So you had a scare, and then that scare made you like say, I got to pull myself together here a little bit.
Yeah, like I've got 2 kids now. I literally could have died in my daughter's bed just trying to tell her, "Hey, have a good day. I have to go to work."
And that really is my point. Is that's it, right? That's the tipping point. It wasn't getting married. It was having kids.
Yeah,
that you feel very responsible towards.
Yeah,
and that pushed you through the what did you call it earlier? The denial about diabetes.
Yeah, it was this is not going away. I mean, I've seen the trials for possible solutions, but until those become, prevalent, this is my life and I have to take control of it. I can't just wait.
Were you waiting for somebody to cure it?
Yeah.
You just thought it was going to happen and then this would be over.
Yeah, pill, a shot, even a once daily shot. I took some insulin at one point that it was like, it's pre-mixed. You take this and just go about your day.
Regular and MPH?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember anything about it. It was super thick. It was clear and it came in a gray pen.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But it was like you took it once a day.
It's interesting. I don't even know what that is.
It could have been lied to me. I could have not understood it. I mean, let's be honest. I didn't understand a lot of things.
Steven's like, I don't know. I was just injecting it. Have you had any like clarity moments in the last 6 months where you think to yourself about like what might come from the years of not keeping your blood sugar down?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Another cautionary tale. My right eye is almost completely fuzzy. I've had laser surgery on both of my eyes now, and not like the good kind where they're fixing it, the kind where they shoot a laser into your eye to try to stop it from bleeding. Mm-hmm. My right eye was completely filled with blood because the retina was bleeding from high blood sugars. And so now that I've got it down under control to 7.1 to 7.4, we're going to go in and I get to get shots in my eye each 2 months.
Dude, I hear they work, and I hear oddly they don't hurt.
That's what he's trying to tell me. And I was ready to do it yesterday. And he was like, well, you got to have somebody here with you to drive you home. I was like, yeah. So I have to wait till next Monday.
Well, I hope that brings you some comfort. I've spoken to enough people that say that it doesn't hurt. So okay. I think you just have to, you have to stare at something and you can't move your eye, and that's pretty much the end of it. So, I mean, it's weird to think of, but I hope you get some corrective relief from it. I mean, has it at least stopped? Has the decline stopped since you got your blood sugar?
Yes, yeah. He's noticed a lot of great improvement, even from a year ago where I was at a 9 point something, now down to a 7. He's like, you can see the difference. Good. No pun intended.
No. Good for you. That's excellent. When your blood sugars came down, did you experience dizziness at higher numbers than you would now today?
Yeah. So I'm sitting at a 113 right now, and I'm kind of feeling okay, but anytime 70, I start to get nervous, and I can feel it.
You can feel low at 70.
At 70. And they're like,
as you were changing your methods, were you feeling low at high numbers? Where did you used to feel low? Or did you never get low enough to find out?
When it was uncontrolled, I never got low enough to found out. I guess I didn't have that happen.
Okay. No.
Now it's 70 is where I start to feel it.
And did you have any problems from coming down? How quickly did you come down from 1214 to 987? Did it take months? It's
probably been a year. When I first got kind of on this kick, to kind of start getting it under control, I got the endocrinologist appointment, and she was like, it's at 12.8.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, I bought this test kit that came with automatic renewal of test strips. So it's you have no excuse not to test your blood sugar daily. So I was doing that, and I noticed every time I was testing 5 times a day, mm-hmm. I was doing a way better job keeping my numbers closer to 120, 130.
Sure.
Even 200. But when I stopped for a day or I missed a meal or something like that, my blood sugar would just shoot up.
Yeah.
300, 400, 500.
Yeah, you need the data.
And that's when they were like, you need the Dexcom. I was like, okay, let's do the Dexcom. And then I was like, well, I was on this Medtronic pump. What about that? And they're like, oh, there's better things now.
And they gave you the Control IQ.
Yeah, she gave me the options. And at that point, the Omnipod 5 wasn't out, which has now been released.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I want this thing that will stop pumping if I start to go low, because that's my problem.
Yeah. So you went from around a year ago from I got to do something, and testing. Then testing got you better. You went from 12.8 to where do you think you went again the next time you went back?
9.8.
9.8. That's great. And then you add CGM and a pump. And then where do you think you're at when you find the podcast?
That was probably at the 9s.
The 9s. Okay. And now you're just over 7.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be in the 6s next time.
I'm really hoping so. My goal was 7.0 flat, but a 9.9 would be, I might have a piece of cake.
It's funny. You just said 9.9, but you meant 6.9.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. You're like, let's be honest, it's going to be 9.9. But no, you're onto it now. So what did you, Stephen, can I ask I'm really genuinely interested. I'm not fluffing myself here, which I think is a phrase I shouldn't use in front of children, but that's not the point. I couldn't think of the clean way to say that. Anyway, let's just get past that. I really want to know what you heard and what thoughts moved you towards a 7A1C. What did the podcast do for you?
Once I was on the Dexcom at one point, and I don't know what episode I've listened to, I'm going to say thousands of it just as a joke, but I've listened to hundreds of your episodes. So there was one you're talking about. You give the insulin and then you wait till the arrow goes down to start eating.
Okay.
I had never done that. Like, I had pre-shot. I was like, oh, I'm going to eat a potato that's, 5 units of insulin. So I'd take 5 units and eat the insulin. I never thought, 30 minutes ahead, 40 minutes ahead. You wait for it to start going down and then you counteract your insulin with food. I thought you always use the insulin to kind of beat your food down at the end.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. You thought of it like, we'll set the whole house on fire, then I'll call a fire truck and try to put it out. Not what if we wet the house before we try to light it on fire?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And that
was
a big
insulin
difference.
was being used as a defense instead of an offense, and now it's being used as an offense instead of a defense.
Gotcha. Oh, that's excellent. Was that alone enough to do this?
That was a big part of it. Was I've now figured out I have to take my insulin. I have to hit it in my pump about 45 to 50 minutes before I want to eat.
No kidding.
Yeah. I'm that resistant. Now, I guess you said my ratios aren't bad, but I felt like I was using a lot of insulin for just a few pieces of pizza.
Well, let me say this then. Let's talk about your management for half a second. Overnight, right? Because there might be room in your basal here. So overnight, where do you sit stable?
It's been gliding. My doctor didn't like me gliding at 90. Oops, sorry.
Don't worry about the dog. Tell your doctor to shut up. 90's great.
I actually did. She was like, you've set your basal numbers pretty aggressive. I didn't tell you to do that. I was like, yeah, I felt I was just a little high during the day. And so I just kind of upped it. But today I'm sitting stable from midnight. I about crashed last night, so I took half a swig of Coke and went to bed. Mm-hmm. But from then till now, I have been averaged 115.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you can. I mean, on Control IQ, that's right about its target. What's its target? Like 112.5. So yeah. You're doing great, honestly. I mean, I was going to say, like, maybe, you're showing me. Hold on a second. Oh, dude, your line's nice. Yeah. No, you're doing wonderful. Time and range set. What's your range set at?
70 to 180.
70 to 180. You're in range. When you're out of range, are you mostly low or high?
Mostly high.
Yeah, then maybe. Well,
my correction factor is 1 to 25. Carb ratio is 1 to 5.
I wonder if I mean, maybe you're right, man. Maybe you are a little insulin resistant from all the years of beating yourself up. I wonder if there's not an oral medication that you could use along with something, or I don't know, you got to get a good doctor to really start talking about stuff like that, though. Yeah, I don't know that there's not more for you there, because if you're sitting nice and stable in that 115 range overnight, mostly, and the Control IQ is keeping you in that space, I don't know if going heavier with your basal would help anything, because if you had a little more basal, you might need a little less in your meal insulin, is the only thing I was thinking. So you see spikes after food, mostly.
Yep. And we've recently adjusted the carb ratio on food.
Well, I mean, listen, I think the common sense thing here is to like eliminate pizza from your diet, if I'm being perfectly honest. So
what? I can't hear you.
This thing's not working. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're worried about the amount of insulin you're taking, I mean, you could try to cut down some of those tougher foods. Pizza's a good example. But higher glycemic load stuff that makes you spike and keeps you up. I think if you eliminated a couple of meals a week, you might see a big difference.
That's probably my next thing I need to get super educated on, and I need to listen to more of those on like the proteins and things like, because I was like, if I switch to like keto, or I forget what it was, where it was the all you eat is protein.
Yeah, like a low carb situation of some
Yeah.
sort.
If I switch to that, like, how does that affect my blood sugar? Because I was like, I could just eat a bunch of chicken patties or chicken
Yeah, but
breasts.
I don't want your
Yeah.
life. I mean, listen, your life doesn't need to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, have you been through the pro tips?
Yes.
Yeah, you hit the glycemic low glycemic index one.
I actually think that's one I haven't listened to, but it's coming up.
Try that one. That'll talk more about food and their impacts. And then I think you're right. There's a couple of episodes about fat and protein. There's a pro tip about it. There's a defining diabetes if you just want like a basic understanding of it. And then there's an episode called bolusing for fat. I think it's what it's called. Well, you think I would know, huh? Hold on a second. You put me.
It's your show, not mine.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, man. I'm 6 months ahead of all of you. I don't know where.
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I'm in my head in 6 different places. Hold on a second. Fat. I just searched for fat and got 600 responses, so that's probably not right. Bolusing insulin for fat, episode 471. So, yeah, I think you just start learning more. I mean, you've made such an incredible improvement in such a short amount of time. First of all, I mean, congratulations. It's spectacular. You must feel like a different person.
Yeah.
No kidding, right?
Yeah. It's fantastic. And to think it was just this lady at church who was just like, oh, you should just offhandedly, you should listen to this guy.
No kidding. Do you know her first name?
Yes.
Would you say it or no?
Allison.
Oh, Allison. Look what you did. Such a nice thing for Stephen. It's wonderful. Tennessee, huh?
That's where I was. I'm not there anymore.
You're not there anymore. Okay. I'm looking for a place, Stephen. I need a place to retire. Low humidity, not too much snow. Where's that place, Stephen? Does anyone know?
My father-in-law had picked in between a couple longitudes that he couldn't move out of for retirement that met all those criteria. There's like a circle around the globe.
Really?
He's the low humidity, no snow. There's got to be a lake. Like he's got very specific goals for retirement.
I like the way he's thinking. I'll look at it more like that. I'm thinking states. I should be thinking longitude and latitude, you're telling me.
Right. Because like you're going to get a similar weather in Florida on the same longitude as you're going to get in Texas.
Wow.
That's all about where you want to be.
You've taught me. I've been thinking about this backwards. Yeah. All right. Well, this gives me something new. I'm not there yet. I'm still reasonably young. I mean, ish. I don't know, man. I don't feel that young. You know what I mean?
You look younger than me. I'll tell you that.
Well, keep my fingers crossed.
Diabetes will do that to you.
Well, listen, the way you do it, it does.
Put a parental warning on this episode.
Oh, this is an after dark for sure. And not because of the jail, by the way. The jail thing is really nothing. It's it's more of, just you're being very honest about living with diabetes and not understanding it, which I really appreciate. And I think so do the people listening. But it could be it could be shocking to some people.
The DKA on a plane episode, that was it. That was the one that just broke me down into tears, and I couldn't go on living the way I was.
No kidding. That lady
that
telling
was
story.
It. I remember I was sitting in a car and it came on, and I listened to it in a parking lot at a Kroger. I finished it because I couldn't drive home.
Episode 478 for people wondering. DKA on a plane. A mother bringing her daughter. Oh, you're gonna cry, Stephen? Are you okay? I'm sorry. It was really upsetting to you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I heard. Listen, when she was telling me the story, I knew it worked out okay, and it was frightening the way she told it. Absolutely frightening. What about it got to you? Are you able to tell me?
That could be my kid.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm diabetic, and so some people say, or at least when I started, it was like, oh, it skips a generation. It was like, but my mom's type 2, I'm type 1. Grandpa, granddad, one of them was was some sort of diabetic. So it obviously there isn't hard and fast rules.
Yeah.
So my kid could have diabetes, and that could be me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think anybody can have diabetes, and it skips a generation. Does not sound very scientific to me, and it never has. So am I to understand that you needed to understand diabetes better in case your kids got it?
Yes.
And you didn't want to not be there for your children as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it helped you. It sounds like it shocked your ass right into place. You were like, damn it, me a CGM and some needles. I gotta get working here.
I have the kit from I'll shout out for your trial net if there's still a sponsor. I've got the kit from them.
Did you? Yeah, when you send it back in, I get credit for that. That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll do that. I won't just sit on the box.
Yeah, well, it's funny when we were talking about doing it together, they're like, the biggest problem we have is getting people to return them. And I was like, okay, so my numbers, it doesn't count to my number unless you send it back.
It's the fear of the answer. I've got the question, do I want to know the answer? Mm-hmm. Knowing what I know now and knowing what I've learned in the past year, do I want to know and worry about it, or do I want to just let it happen? I think that's...
Are you worrying about it anyway?
Yes.
Well, then I'd rather know. I mean, unless you're living in like La La Land on it, then I don't see what the argument is. You're worrying one way or the other. Who cares what you're worrying about? You'd still worry. And
stop making sense, Scott.
Right. Steven, you cut me off when I said no pizza, and now here with common sense too.
No, I like that you're right. And sometimes, I'm just oppositional defiant. I need somebody to just make me realize you're right.
You're interesting because I don't think you're I don't think that you are what do I want to say? I feel like if God, there's no nice way to say this.
I'll just say it then.
Different ways from Sunday. I think if somebody would have adopted you, you would have had a different life. I don't know if it's where you grew up or how you grew up or like what about it is right, but the shift you made from not knowing to understanding and talking to you today, like you're a bright person and you get all this, but no one introduced it to you. You know what I mean?
And I'm a gamer, so keep the numbers between the lines as a game.
And it's easy for you now that you understand that that's the goal.
Understand the rules, understand the purpose, and then just execute goal.
Isn't that interesting? Well, dude, you're well on your way. I mean, it sounds like nothing but good things are ahead of you. It's really wonderful. Seriously, I'm happy for you. What does your wife say about it all?
We don't talk about it very much.
Is that your doing?
I don't know. I would if she asked, but she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say there's in our years of marriage, she's got up to check on me overnight, either a low or a high, maybe once or twice.
Well, you weren't paying attention to it. How would she know to pay attention to it?
Right. I mean, but when you go out to the couch and swig 3 Cokes and then pass out,
something's going on.
You'd think somebody would come poke you and be like, hey, are you okay?
Dude, I would think having sex with you back then would have made her blood sugar high. What do you think of that? I mean, yours was really high. I don't know if you can get a contact high from blood sugars, but if you could, you were well on your way to proving it.
Oh, that goes with all the doctor's information I had early.
Yeah. I don't think that's solid medical advice, what I just said there.
So if somebody has low blood sugar, all you've got to do is, and we're done.
Grab a hold of them. Yeah. Well, that's it. Wow, geez. Dude, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to?
No. Did anybody post any questions about the jail in the Facebook group?
I don't know if they did or not, actually. Do you have some?
No. I think when we started talking about this 6 months ago, I posted something, but I don't think anybody responded
to it. Yeah, it's not something I think a lot of people have experience with. It's funny too, not funny, but it actually makes sense. I have had 4 people set up to be on this program so far in over years who have been in prison. Like I'm not, listen, I wouldn't want to be in jail for 10 days. Don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about people who have been in prison for years, right? With type 1. And they've contacted me. They've said they want to do it. And then they get to some level of scheduling it. And then they bail eventually. Most often I either hear parole issues, like they don't want to say anything and get themselves in trouble, or they just kind of ghost me after a while. But I've never successfully gotten someone all the way to recording who's been in prison for many years. And I do want to.
Completely expunged, so you can try to look it up. You won't find it.
I can't find you anywhere. Yeah.
Nope.
Wow. Well, good for you. That's excellent too. I mean, you deserve a second chance. I mean, I believe you when you're saying you kind of got led wrong by a coworker. But nobody. I mean, listen. I'm assuming you weren't selling guns to Contras, right? You were basically giving people off a little money, like a discount on the gun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a regulated price they have to be, and we were giving a discount lower than that regulated price.
And people hear that you have cheaper guns, and then you do a lot of sales because of it. Even if they're only saving a few bucks, it's money saved, and it gets around, right. And people know. Yeah, that's interesting. Do you own guns?
Yes.
Are you allowed to still?
Yes. Okay. I've since the expungement, I brought a couple suppressors too, which take fingerprints and background checks. So I'm fully clear to own everything.
You're back to good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does your wife shoot?
No.
No.
She grew up doing it, and her dad likes it. That's why he and I kind of connect. And then she was just like, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I get you. I'd try to. I'm sure my wife tries to stay away from me too. I don't see her when I have hobbies. I don't see her like, oh, I'll come. I more see a look on her face like, oh, he's leaving. Super exciting. Scott's going away for the afternoon. Yay. Well, man, listen, I don't know what you're going to do about TrialNet. In my opinion, if you know, then you can look out for things. They do have protocols now that are having a lot of success holding off diagnosis for quite some time. If they find out soon enough, that might be a good enough reason to find out. Just so that you can be aware might be a good enough reason to find out. And if you're going to worry about it anyway, at least your worry should do some good. I think that your next steps might be to look harder at your nutrition, for yourself personally. And maybe you won't need to go to more and more insulin to get that A1C down farther and farther. Maybe you'll be able to impact it that way. You know what I mean? And after that, I say, go for a walk and and congratulations. You ought to throw yourself a big party, man. You did something that not a lot of people do. Like seriously, Mendy, you pulled yourself out of a deep hole and you did it by yourself. It's pretty goddamn impressive.
And again, I don't want to rag on my parents. And now that my dad's like seeing everything, he's like, I should have been involved. Why wasn't I involved? And I was like, you were busy. You were at work.
Like, you also didn't know either, right? And your mom, I'm going to guess this. Your mom's got type 2. It doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Because they don't really do anything. So there's no way to think of it as a big deal. People don't even know the difference between type 1, type 2. It's just not something they understand. Like in your dad's mind, I bet you had the insulin kind of diabetes and your mom had the pill kind of diabetes. And it's just not, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. Someone needs to step up. A doctor needs to step up and put it into perspective for you. And if you don't understand it, they should do it again and again and again until you get it. Not just say, well, you're not trying hard enough,
The death thing is real. It's not a joke. You can die.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and not, you just thought you were being scared. Like somebody's trying to scare you straight and you're like, I'm not falling for this crap.
Yeah. Oh, that's not going to happen to me. I'm invincible.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely not. You can't even get away with discounting a gun $5, Steven. I'm not saying.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Well, shots fired. Ooh. You trying to name the episode? Calm down. That's my job. I genuinely appreciate you doing this. I really do. It was really wonderful of you. And I'm super happy for you. I mean, honestly, in a way that I mean, we're in the middle of like kind of joking around in the middle of this. You've talked about some serious stuff, and you started, discussing your A1C, and I swear to God, I got overwhelmed. I was incredibly happy for you,
Now if only I could get my insurance to stop denying the Dexcom every month.
Do you have to, you can't get a letter of medical necessity?
We're working on it, but I've had to appeal it every month, and it's always overturned, but it's just a pain.
Yeah, get that letter from the doctor. You'll be okay. Yeah, if you have trouble with that, there's a person in the Facebook group who really understands all this stuff. So
you've given me her name.
Good.
We've spoken.
Good. She's terrific. So, all right. Wow, man, this is terrific. I really appreciate you doing this. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. I'd also like to thank Stephen for sharing his story and thank the InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. Head to InPentoday.com by clicking on the links in your show notes or at juiceboxpodcast.com. Or you can just type it into the browser, InPentoday.com. I'd like to thank you for listening to the show and remind you that there's an absolutely amazing community for the podcast in Facebook. It's private, it's free. It's called Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. I think there's a link in the show notes to that as well. It's an absolutely fabulous place to listen, learn, or talk about type 1. And honestly, there's a lot of type 2s in there too. Adults or parents, it's just a great space to talk about diabetes. And if you haven't filled out the survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox, please do it for me today. It really will only take a few minutes. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.